towns. And then I said, well, see, on the Camino, if you stay on the road, you'll get where you're going, but it's going to take you a lot longer because cars don't care how far it is. So I didn't want to walk farther. And so I'm cutting across fields. At one point, one of the interesting moments of the trip was I just started walking down this path, and then I'm in a farm field, and then it ended, and I turned left because I wasn't going to go backwards, and there were bushes and brambles all over me. I'm beating them off with my poles because it was barely a path, and then it literally ended, and I'm walking across a farm field, and so fast forward, I end up walking down a trail, and I said, I'm going to turn left at the next trail, and 2 lefts later, I was back on the Camino. So somehow I found it. But the part about lost was I never felt lost the whole time. And I could have, because there were times, I remember one time I was in this big forest, and there was a Y, and the split in the road. And neither road was the obvious direction in my mind because it was at an angle. And I went, I don't know which way to go here. Oh, I'll take this one. Because it's kind of like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
So when I told people, in fact, a really quick story about how other people see it. So one of my best friends is named Debbie. I don't think I put this in the book. Her son-in-law, oh my God, what's his name? Oh my God, Darren. Her son-in-law is Darren, and I know Darren. And Darren was freaked out that I was going to Spain alone. He was like, oh my God, something could happen to Jeff. I didn't even know this till I got back. Well, when I posted on Facebook about how I had lost the Camino, I never said I was lost. I said I'd lost the Camino. Darren called Debbie and said, oh my God, we almost lost Jeff today. Like he wasn't even there, but it freaked him out, the idea that I was wandering around. And it was wandering, but to me, that's what I was there for. I was there to wander and wonder. And so that's a little bit, the story, I encourage people to read that story because I left out a lot. It's a fascinating story, but it hit me that day when I was journaling that lost is a choice, because for 4 hours, I didn't know exactly where I was, but I knew I was okay. I did run low on water. It taught me to make sure I have more water. I wasn't at the point of, dehydration, but I was pretty low on water. And the weather didn't cooperate, but I was okay. And I knew I'd be okay. And I was so not caught up in having to know where I'm at or even where I'm going. I was just in the moment. And that's what I talk about life, because people could say, well, Jeff, that's just a trail in Spain. I said, well, first of all, you go do it.
Right.
See if you can have the same feeling and not be disappointed.
200 miles.
And not be terrified and see if you can. But on top of that, why can't you do that in your life? Because everything still is pretty much okay.
Well, and that concept, the reflection in your book in different areas, there are several times where you remind the reader that, in the end, what is the worst case? In the end, you can go back to, you'll be okay. Like you said, eventually you will get back on the trail, and just, why even waste energy on even fretting or thinking about that? I mean, it's wasted energy, or just not the best use of it. The book, you do have some, sad parts to it that, struck me and will resonate with the readers. You lost your mother during, you talk about that in your book, and then, the tragic loss of your younger brother, right? Was he younger? And the effect of that. So there's that part to it. I mean, the book really is, keeps you engaged for sure. And, wanting to know, more about, who's a person that you might have met. And then, you really ask your reader to dig deep. So I really, recommend this book to anyone that's listening here. I've got to ask you our question as we get close to the end of this 30 minutes, which I knew would fly by. So I need to ask you a question. If you would share with us something about your life and your facts and in your 4 books. This might be a difficult ask for you, but we want to ask you to share, what maybe very few human beings know, or what no one knows about you, Jeff.
Yeah. That's a tricky one, because I have grown to be so transparent in my life. I mean, I can tell you this: there's nothing I could share that nobody knows. It doesn't exist. But I will say this: the thing that I've shared in at least two books now. Well, at least one book, my book Unmasked. I've shared it from the stage. I share it with coaching clients. I share it, but it's not like everybody knows it, and that is that when I was married, I was a habitual cheater. Um, I stepped out of my marriage a number of times over 20 years, and I'm not. I mean, and I hope no one would ever be proud of that. I'm not proud of it, and I don't believe in regrets. I'm sorry for. I'm really sorry for the pain I caused others. My family, it had a huge impact on my family, certainly my marriage, which ended, but my relationship with my children. But, I also know that later in life, over the last 10 years, um, I've really come to understand why I did that. And so, in a way, I hate to say it this way, but there was a huge gift in that. But the gift came because I was willing to acknowledge it and really try and take a look at what drove that behavior. And it was profound. I mean, it tied back to, you mentioned the death of my younger brother, some issues with my father, all of which that's a whole nother conversation about talking to my father about some of these issues, because I wrote about them. So I felt compelled to talk to him about them. But I wouldn't be the man I am today without that. It's one of those unfair questions. People say, well, wouldn't it have been better if you didn't do that, so you didn't need to learn? I said, well, but that's kind of well, okay, yeah, sure. I'll accept that, but that's not what really true about life. And I will say this: what I learned about that type of behavior, especially for men, I've been encouraged over my career, and I haven't done it because it's one of those things that you can only do so many things in your life. I do a lot of work with men through an organization called the Mankind Project. But a lot of people, including men, will talk about, they were unfaithful to their spouse because they weren't getting what they wanted in the relationship. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. People step out of their relationships for reasons that are inside reasons. They're not about anybody else. And until you do that work, it'll continue. And now I'm proud. I don't say this. I'll say this. I don't say this a lot, but 10 years ago, if you had met me, I would have told you I was a good man. But then I realized it really wasn't. I was just a nice guy, and I made a mission in my life to be a good man. And I'm a good man. I'm imperfect. I still make mistakes, but I can look in the mirror every day and say, you know what? I'm a good man.
Well, Jeff,
and that's my journey.
Thank you for sharing that. And you are a good man. From the man I know, we've just started to get to know each other. And, when you read someone's book, you definitely get to know them when they are as transparent and authentic. And what you shared in this book, Just One Step, I do want you to you're a leadership coach, and you've been for many years, and the credentials that you have are pretty awesome. So I want you to be able to share that. I want to share, though, before we go there, just what I highlighted. It's one of my favorite passages in your book. And when you talk about your book, and we're reviewing Just One Step, what you say on page 161 is, you say, what I learned on the Camino is that any goal or objective is really a journey that will be filled with highs and lows, obstacles and challenges, bumps and bruises, failures and successes, setbacks and accelerations. I also now deeply understand that every journey is made up of individual experiences that are just as important as the journey itself. And that same is true for every journey you're taken or will take in the future. So thank you for sharing what you did, because I agree. We all live this life and these experiences, and we make decisions, and sometimes they're not necessarily the best one for us at the time, but we come out of it, and you can either choose to put blinders on and just keep on going, like you said when you told your coach, I'm just going to keep on going, or you pause, you breathe, as you talk about in your book, you listen and you learn from them and you try to do better. So, Jeff, will you let our listeners know how they can connect with you, how they can follow you, how they can purchase any of your books? We've got Unmask, Let Go of Who You're Supposed to Be, and Unleash a True Leader, which is my next read, and then Arrows of Truth. And I'm missing the fourth one, but go ahead and let us know, please, if you would.
Yeah, so a couple ways. I'm easy to find, certainly on all the different platforms. My website is www.NISCHWITZ, NISCHWITZ group.com. That's NISCHWITZgroup.com. You can connect to me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The book you can't get all of my books. You can get my books on my website. There's a page for all the books. You can also get a couple of the books on Amazon. One of them is not there right now, but I'll be getting that up there in the next couple of months. But the best source of all things is through my website, and you can email me at jeff@nischwitzgroup.com.
Well, thank you, and I highly recommend you picking up Just One Step. It's a great book. I enjoyed all of it, and we thank you so much for being on our podcast as our podcast guest for our podcast, What No One Knows.
Thanks, Lisa. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, What No One Knows. If you have a story to share, contact Now Publishing at publish@nowscpress.com. Visit our website, publishwithnow.com, for a free download from our The 90-Day Author book, and let Now Publishing build, publish, and sell your book.